I was thinking to travel the world, empower and improve myself through traveling. Well, first and foremost, I think I need to be able to communicate with other people. So I'm forever trying my best to improve my English language. Also actively participate in local affairs and or even attending council meetings. I managed to take up public office some years ago, whereby I was one of the non-executive directors of the local primary care trust. And I think also it's very important to understand the common values shared by the Chinese and the wider communities. Before I came to the UK, I was working for a British bank in Hong Kong, and then after that, when I arrived in the UK, I started working for a publishing company. Well, when I was working with the publishing company, I had some time to spare. So I realized that it is important, being a Chinese living in this country, that I should help the Chinese community to raise their profile with my knowledge and my skills. So I contacted one of the Chinese community organizations based in Chinatown, and at that point they were developing a Chinese community organization in Islington where I lived. So I contributed my time and lobbied the council and helped them set up the Islington Chinese Association back in 1987. And I think it's very important that the Chinese should have a voice in this country, and it's very important to make that voice heard, to influence policymakers so that they understand the needs and the demands of the Chinese community living in this country. We help to try raise the profile of the Chinese community, which is very important. And I think over the years we have achieved quite a lot. For example, we have been awarded the Queen's Award for Voluntary Services, and I think that award in itself speaks a lot. What difficulties have we faced or will be facing in the future are tremendous. I think one of the issues is integration. I don't think the Chinese understands the importance of integration. I mean, they are very insular. They just live amongst themselves, and therefore they will not take an interest, in what goes on and around them. And that is the biggest challenge, because by history or by tradition, our organization is actually geared to cater for the needs of the Chinese from Hong Kong. But over the years, that composition has changed, so we have to change as well with them, or with the different background of the Chinese in this country. As an organization, I think it is very difficult and a huge challenge in terms of lack of funding. So, in other words, we have to try and seek alternative funding which is sustainable and not just relying on grants, donations, sponsorships, etc. By sustainable funding, I'm talking about maybe even developing into a social enterprise. So that is something that not just the Islington Chinese Association, I think overall all the Chinese community organizations in the country, they need to have a further sort of planning as to how they want to develop in the next 10, 20 years. So I think it's very important to consist the elements of trust and respect. Without those two basic elements, I think you're bound to have a very problematic marriage. Also important is the attitude of feeling thankful and blessed that you have each other. I think that is very important, and of course, communication is also very important. And especially in my case, for example, it's a mixed marriage, whereby I'm Chinese and my husband is English. So I mean that sort of people coming from two cultural backgrounds can sometimes create misunderstanding, because they might have different views about the way of life, your attitudes. But I have to say that, in my marriage, I mean, it has and still working very well.